Winter came and went. Snow up to the knees, temperatures that made the air in your nose freeze, and the whole neighborhood turning into a competition of who could shovel faster to get out of the house without breaking their neck. But despite the white chaos that took over the street, there was one basic rule among the neighbors: respect each other's shovels. It's as simple as that. The shovel is sacred. It's like a warrior's shield in battle, to each his own. Only she, as always, thought that the rule didn't apply to her. The woman in House 16, the one who paints the sidewalks with colored chalk in October and calls the police when someone lights a barbecue in April, woke up before me on that freezing Saturday. The kind of day when everyone gets ready to dig with hate and coffee as fuel. When I came out, still half asleep, ready to face my digging ritual, I realized that the shovel wasn't in its usual place. Not on the hook, not on the balcony, nowhere. At first, I thought it was my mistake. Maybe I'd put it away in the shed without remembering. I went there, searched everything. Nothing. It was only when I raised my head and looked at her house that I saw it. The shovel was there, in her hand. Metallic blue, wooden handle chipped at the end. Unmistakable. She was digging as if she were an Olympic rowing champion, all bundled up in her synthetic fur coat and a scarf so big it looked like a curtain wrapped around her neck. I stared in silence, hoping for the least, that she would notice, that she'd turn around and say, "Sorry, I had to, and I'll get back to you." But no, she saw me, looked straight into my eyes, gave that crooked little smile of someone who doesn't feel guilty even when they hit a parked car, and carried on digging. The neighborhood was used to her weirdness. The woman was always making up new rules for the neighborhood group, sending out alerts about noise outside the permitted hours when she heard someone sneezing heavily, and had already tried to fine the boy from House 12 for playing snowball. But stealing tools? That was a whole new level of impudence. I returned home with my blood boiling, which, at -18 degrees, is a physiological miracle. I sat on the balcony, made another cup of coffee, and watched as she finished clearing the driveway like a street hero. When she'd finished, she went in with a shovel in her hand, without giving it back, without saying anything, as if it had always been hers. In the neighborhood group, I tried to be civil. I sent a short message. "Has anyone seen my blue snow shovel with the cracked handle? It's gone from my balcony." Silence. For 2 hours. Then came her reply. "Maybe you're getting confused." I picked up a shovel from the sidewalk, with no identification. It could have been in common use. Common use. She called my shovel common use, as if it were a plastic party cup, as if it hadn't been a present from my uncle in 2016, with my name written in permanent pen under the blade. From then on, something broke. It wasn't just about the shovel, it was about the principle, about respect, about that feeling of living in a reality show where only you read the rules, and the rest think it's freestyle. It was about her look, the "I can" look, the look of someone who cleans their own sidewalk with the effort of others and still feels entitled to victimize themselves. And then the idea came. It wasn't planned. It wasn't Machiavellian. It was natural, spontaneous, organic, like the oat milk she keeps offering at the picnic in the park. The forecast was for more snow over the next 72 hours. Lots of it. The kind of snowfall that paralyzes the city, closes schools, and makes the mayor appear on TV, telling everyone to stay at home. It was the perfect scenario. I took the tractor out of the garage. Yes, I have one. Small, practical, great for cleaning up yards. And I spent the rest of the night cleaning my sidewalk, my driveway, and accumulating snow, tons of it, in a strategic corner, a silent store of white vengeance. With each trip with the little tractor, I piled up the snow more precisely, and when the storm hit, early on Sunday morning, it only helped me. She covered everything. It was even. It compacted like cake batter ready to bake. The next morning, I started, slowly, pulling up the accumulated snow, shaping it like making a sand castle, only made of ice. I started at the back of her house, where you couldn't see. Then, I went to the sides. On the second day, there were already two 2-meter-high walls surrounding her garage. On the third day, the gate was gone. On the fourth, all we could see was the roof. Nobody questioned it. Nobody helped. Nobody reported it. The neighborhood knew what was going on and, deep down, thought it was deserved. Some people passed by and waved their chin, as if to say, "Keep going, it's getting good." She only realized how big it was when she tried to leave the house on Thursday, but that's for the next part. On Thursday morning, the street woke up to a beautiful silence. One of those days when everything is so white and frozen that even the sound seems to slide slowly. The sky was still a pale gray, and the shy sun was beginning to draw soft shadows on the snowy walls. Everything seemed clean, light, until she opened the door to her house and came face to face with a 4.5-meter wall made of the same material she thought she could steal without consequences. The reaction was worthy of a detective series. First, the sound of the doorknob turning, then the door opening with a bang, and then the scream. Not a scream of fright or fear. It was a dry, frustrated scream, like, "What is this?" mixed with, "Is this serious?" The woman stared at the white, smooth, compact wall, with edges shaped like an Olympic luge wall. There was no window. There was no gap. It was pure ice, built with care and intention. She stepped out, or rather, tried to. She took 2 steps and stopped, because the path between her house and the sidewalk simply no longer existed. It was gone, covered, sealed, blocked by tons of snow piled up with such precision that it looked like a highway engineer. The doorsteps were swallowed up. The mailbox was buried. The house number was no longer visible. It was as if the house had been wiped off the map by a white eraser. She walked around to the back. She found more of the same. The garden? Now a containment yard. The side gate? Stuck between 2 icy towers. The garage? Inaccessible. The car, which she always parked with its rear slightly encroaching on the neighbor's space, now rested frozen inside a cube of silence. The neighborhood, of course, already knew. People passed by slowly, some pretending to walk their dogs, others just driving around, watching the show with the air of someone who doesn't want to miss a single episode. There were even people who brought beach chairs to the sidewalk just to sit and watch. But the best thing was that nobody said anything. It was the perfect revenge because there was no name, no direct accusation, no proof. It was snow. And who can prove who moved what? Snow falls, accumulates, changes place with the wind. Who could guarantee that it wasn't nature itself that had built that igloo of social isolation around her house? She tried to play the victim. She sent a message in the neighborhood group. "My house has been surrounded by a wall of snow. This is vandalism." She only received 2 snowflake emojis and a penguin sticker. Then he went personally to old Peter's house on the corner, broom in hand and cell phone in the other, filming everything and saying he was going to file a police report. Peter pretended to be deaf, offered her a cup of tea and said, "Winter is like that, dear." And he went back to the fireplace. The next day, she decided to try digging on her own, with a shovel, which wasn't hers, of course. It was mine, the same one, metallic blue, with my name scrawled underneath. That's right. After all the confusion, after ignoring me, after appropriating my tool as if it were a common toy, she had the stone face to reappear with a shovel in her hand, trying to open a tunnel through the side of the house. I watched from the window. I did nothing, not a word. I just followed her every move. And every time she stuck the shovel into the ice, it was like she was digging her own humiliation, because the snow there wasn't fluffy. It was compacted snow, frozen by 3 days of polar wind, pressed down with the tractor, and watered with bottles of water to form a crust. She dug, and the ice returned. She shoveled, and her arm shook. The shovel resounded with the dry sound of someone being beaten by their own stubbornness. In the late afternoon, she sat on the invisible steps of the veranda, breathing heavily, sweating inside a lined jacket. She was exhausted, grimy with snow, and her pride was more trampled than the sidewalk on market day. Her face, normally frozen in expressions of superiority, now expressed only one thing: surrender. But she didn't apologize. She didn't mention it. She didn't even look at my house. The wall remained, and the world went on spinning, as if there wasn't a house surrounded by a wall of ice right in the middle of the neighborhood. The post office started skipping her house for deliveries. Delivery services left packages at the front gate and left without asking. And the neighbors started calling the place the House of Eternal Winter, all because of a shovel. But it wasn't just the shovel. It was the disrespect, the petulance, the certainty of impunity, and now she was reaping every flake of it, right in the frozen backyard that she herself had dug up with all her might. But the story isn't over yet, because one day the ice melts, and what's left underneath is sometimes worse than the cold. The ice wall became part of the landscape. It was like a living sculpture, an accidental monument to human stubbornness. The neighbors began to use it as a geographical reference. Turn right after the wall of shame. Or, as the kid from House 22 baptized it, Aunt Encrencha's frozen throne. The children loved it. Every day after school, they would pass by and throw snowballs at the top. Some even made bets on how many days the woman would last without apologizing. There was even a secret quiz among the teenagers. Who will break the ice first? The ice or the pride? But then came the first week of sunshine. Not the real hot sun, but enough to melt the tops, form puddles, and begin to reveal the structural flaws in the ice. The edges began to drip slowly, the shadows changed, and the base became slippery. The meltwater ran down the sidewalks, but inside her fortress, it formed a veritable skating rink. Access to the door became treacherous. With every step, there was a risk of slipping and falling face first into her own arrogance. And the woman? She still pretended everything was fine. She applied makeup, put on a matching scarf, and sneaked out, trying to walk with dignity between the walls of ice that she herself had caused. It was like watching an exiled queen trying to keep her posture even after the blow. Sometimes she cleared the snow with a squeegee. A squeegee. Trying to contain the melting with a kitchen utensil. The problem was that, with the thaw, what was under the ice began to appear. Bags of garbage that she had left piled up on the side of the house, scraps of wood from the community composting project that never got off the ground, and, the funniest thing, the little sign she had made to put in front of the house, "Respect begins at home." It was there, twisted, dirty, and buried in the mud. It was at this time that she began to try to turn the story in her favor. One weekend, she decided to call a local news crew. Yes, a neighborhood TV channel that covers everything from cupcake festivals to impromptu sledding championships. The reporter arrived with microphone in hand and started filming the woman leaning against the ice wall, talking about the impact of intolerance between neighbors and how small disputes can turn into climate tragedies. She cried. She forced a few tears. She said she was isolated out of revenge. She felt as if she had been cancelled in the real world. And she called for unity, all filmed with a drone flying in circles. A scene that, if it weren't so pathetic, would be up for a comedic short film award. But the reporter didn't expect half the neighborhood to be there watching. When he turned around to interview the neighbors, it was all downhill. "She stole his shovel," said a 70-year-old woman with a shovel in her hand. "I saw it. With these eyes that have seen 3 storms since 2007. Another resident added, "She went into other people's yards without asking, dug as if it were her own. And now she wants to play the victim just because the ice gave her change." The reporter tried to remain professional, but started laughing. He cut the broadcast, thanked her, and left. The same day, the video hit the internet, and the caption was unforgiving. "Ice wall versus drama queen. Who froze common sense?" With that, the woman's situation went down another notch. Now she wasn't just the Karen of the shovel. She was Karen of the ice, the drama, the TV. She no longer went out to shovel snow. She no longer spoke in groups. She spent the afternoon locked up, looking out of the window with the same look as someone who had lost a miniature civil war, but still, no apology, no acknowledgement. The shovel, it was still missing. That's when my father came into the story. He was a quiet man, one of those who only spoke when silence was meaningless. He woke up one Saturday and said, "Let's break the wall." I thought it was irony, but he was serious. He took a new shovel, one of those iron ones, and started digging, but not for her to leave, to end the show. I joined him. We began to slowly dismantle the walls, and every shovelful of snow that came out was like erasing a chapter of that community outbreak. Neighbors came to help. No one agreed. Nobody said much. They just dug. The woman appeared at the door. She watched. Her eyes were swollen. She didn't say anything. She just watched. And for a second, she looked like she was going to say thank you. But, of course, he turned his back and went inside. By the end of the day, the wall was gone. The snow was distributed on the sidewalks, melted in the sun. The street looked normal again, but no one had forgotten. And even without a wall, her house was still surrounded by silence, by shame, and for a message that hung in the air. Nobody messes with the neighbor's shovel and comes out dry from this story. The wall of snow is gone, but its impact remains on the street like an icy scar. The sidewalk where the wall had been erected became a talking point. Her house, once the scene of community meetings and an artisan cookie delivery route, became almost a ghost zone. No one rang the doorbell. Orders were now left at the front door, with a note asking someone to deliver them later. Not even the neighborhood cats passed by anymore. What happened that winter became legend. People told it like it was a court case. She took the shovel without permission. He surrounded the house with 4.5 meters of ice. There were reports. There were drones. There were morals sinking into the ice like the Titanic. Each person recounted a detail, as if they had been an eyewitness to the fall of the queen of the clean sidewalk. But despite the public shame, she still pretended that nothing had happened. Over the next few months, spring began. The snow went away, the puddles disappeared, and the street looked normal again. Except for her. The woman walked differently, head down, short steps, and a kind of heavy silence. She no longer gave orders in the neighborhood group. She didn't send emails about recyclable waste. She didn't even try to organize the spring festival, the one she herself created years ago, printed invitation and all. The most ironic thing? Even with the wall melted, the weather was still freezing. And this time, in the heart of her own home, apparently, her husband, who had had enough of the constant bickering, decided to take a break, a period of reflection, which, according to rumors, involved him moving in with his sister in another city. The words used were, "I need a bit of human warmth." The whole neighborhood got the hint. Meanwhile, I carried on as normal. New shovel in place, tractor overhauled, yard cleaned up. The curious thing was that now everyone was asking if they could borrow anything. Shovels, ladders, even rock salt to defrost the driveway. I've never received so many polite good mornings. The neighborhood has learned to respect the limits of the gate, and that, frankly, was worth more than any wall of ice. But the last scene of this soap opera came in early fall. The neighborhood association decided to hold an open meeting to discuss harmonizing relations between neighbors. The title was already suspicious. When I saw that the invitation was signed by her, I knew for sure the woman wanted to make a triumphant comeback. She wanted to clear the air with a peace speech and a new integration project, probably something with shared benches or vegetable gardens on the sidewalks. I went to the meeting, not because I believed in reconciliation, but because I wanted to see how far it would go. I arrived and saw that the audience was smaller than expected. People were there more out of curiosity than desire, and when she took to the makeshift stage in the church hall, the silence was absolute. She began with a speech full of fake humility. "Making mistakes is human, but reconnecting is essential. We've had difficult episodes this winter which have pushed us apart, but I believe we can—" She was interrupted. A gentleman in the third row raised his hand. "Are you going to give the shovel back, Or are you going to keep pretending it's gone? The room erupted into laughter that she couldn't control. She tried to continue her speech, but no one was listening. People commented on each other, repeated the phrase, and openly made fun of it. A teenager in the back said, "You could make a monument to the neighborhood shovel, right?" The woman stopped. She picked up the papers in her hand, thanked them with a withering nod, and left the stage without finishing. That night, the neighborhood group exploded with memes. A shovel with a crown, a shovel with a superhero cape, even a print of a shovel with the caption, "The real leadership the neighborhood needs." The woman didn't answer anything. She just left the group the next morning. Her house was put up for sale 2 weeks later. A discreet ad, with no interior photos, and the description, "Great location, active community, quiet environment." Everyone knew it was a lie. The only thing calm about it was the number of visitors the house received. Nobody wanted to move to the most talked-about address in the neighborhood for months. Months later, a removal truck pulled up in front of the house. No one helped. No one said goodbye. She walked out of the front door with sunglasses and a small backpack. No furniture, no boxes. Just her, the truck driver, and the shovel. Yes, she left with a metallic blue shovel in her hands. That's the one. Still with my name forcibly erased in white paint. Maybe she took it as a souvenir, perhaps as a trophy, or maybe because, deep down, she still believed she hadn't done anything. But it didn't matter. Her shovel might even have left the street, but her story was buried there. Along with the melted dignity, the wall of ice, and the certainty that, at the end of the day, it wasn't about the tool. It was about respect. And that would never be lacking in the street again. And if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a comment and a like.